soon as possible. I get a lot of questions, a lot of really uncomfortable questions. One of them a few years ago was before I went on air with Bill O'Reilly when he goes, "What does it feel like to be the world's most famous illegal alien?" And then the camera went on. I didn't know what to say to him, but what I do know is off air, immigration is, on air and off air, immigration is the most controversial, yet least understood issue in American life. It's not a surprise that when candidate Donald Trump announced he was running for president, it was the very issue that he campaigned on, right? And I can prove to you, as someone who's been walking and talking and traveling this country like a walking uncomfortable conversation in the past 6 years. I've done more than 850 events in 48 states and visited 300 college campuses. Republicans, Democrats, Tea Party people, I'll talk to anybody, right? I can tell you that it is the most controversial yet least understood issue in America. I can tell you that because of the questions I get asked by Republicans and Democrats, by TV anchors and by journalists themselves who don't really understand the issue. Questions like, why haven't they deported you? I don't know. You have to ask them. I actually made a film in which I called ICE myself and asked, "Hi, haven't heard from you." I get questions like, why don't you just get legal? Bill Maher asked that a couple of months ago before I went on his show. Why don't you just fix this thing? If Milo can have a green card, why can't you? I don't know, Bill. Maybe I'm just, dying for attention, and I don't want to fix this thing. People don't even understand what the process is. I get questions like, why don't you just leave and go home? And I'm like, well, what home? Mountain View, where I grew up, New York, where I've been living, DC, where I used to live, or LA, where I live now. That's home to me, right? People ask me these questions online and offline, and there are people that I will never engage with. Like, I don't do Ann Coulter, right? I mean, it's theater, somebody give her an Oscar, I just don't do Ann Coulter. But on a particular day, I was feeling vulnerable, and when Ann tweeted this a month after Donald Trump announced he was running for president, I couldn't help but answer and says, I'm not going anywhere, we're not going anywhere, and just CC the president, now the president and ICE and DHS, just so they know that I'm not really kidding around. And then this guy, and with trolls, I'm really careful. When you have your name in your face, I handle you. So Dennis O'Toole said, "You're still a dirtbag illegal, go home scumbag." To which I said, "O'Toole? Are you Irish?" To which he goes, "No, I'm American." I love that answer, by the way. And then I said, well, wait a second, but from where? Unless you're Native American or African American who was imported to this country, you must answer 3 fundamental questions. Where did you come from? How did you get here? Who paid? If you don't know the answer to those questions, then stop talking about a border you don't understand and a wall that you don't even know about. So I asked that, and then he goes, well, makes no difference. I was born here by American parents, period. To which I say, well, it makes a big difference. Do you know the history of Irish immigrants and the racism and prejudice that they faced in America? No, the Irish came legal, Mr. O'Toole said. Well, wait a second. The Border Patrol was born in 1924. Ellis Island in 1892. Many immigrant Irish people migrated to the U.S. way before that, when you didn't need papers, there were no laws, there were no visa processes. There was a famine, they showed up, many of them died in coffin ships, and then they got here. So what did it mean to be legal then, and what does it mean to be legal now? And then, of course, I recommended a book, a really fabulous book called How the Irish Became White. Now, to be honest with you, this is what I had to prepare myself around this time 6 years ago before deciding what I did, which is against the advice of 27 immigration lawyers. I decided to come out for the second time in my life. The first time was the gay thing, and then this undocumented thing. And I had to ask myself, if I'm going to do this, am I really ready to live a public life and to answer these really uncomfortable questions? I'm a journalist. That's my constitution. I'm supposed to facilitate conversations. So I decided to do it. Isn't that the most horrible photo you've ever seen? So in a 4,000-word essay in the New York Times, I admitted to all the lies I told, all the fraud I committed. In the New York Times. One of my lawyers said to me, the very fact that you admitted to all of these things is the very reason why we can't help you. We can get you a visa, you can't get married, now you've admitted to fraud, that can't fix it, right? One of the lawyers said to me memorably, the very fact that you lied about being a US citizen may be the reason that you will never become a citizen of this country. Anne Lamott, the great writer Anne Lamott, has this great line that she says, "Tell me what breaks your heart and I will tell you your purpose." So defining American is my purpose. This was an organization that we founded 6 years ago this month with the help of Jamu Green, Alicia Menendez, and my best friend, Jake Brewer. And what we do at Define American is we use stories to transcend politics and humanize this most political issue. To us, stories are a weapon. They serve as a correction, an intervention, and liberation. We use all forms of media to change culture around immigration. We challenge news coverage, like the use of the word illegal. We create media. We made a partner with MTV, made a documentary called White People, just to remind white people the intersection between race and immigration. And we curate media. Most of all, and this is really important, we connect the dots between the undocumented population and the larger immigrant population. Too often when we talk about this issue, we focus too much, I think, on the 11 million undocumented people like me and fail to recognize the fact that the 11 million undocumented people live and exist within the 43 million immigrant population in this country. We live in families where there are people who are naturalized U.S. citizens, U.S.-born American citizens. That's what our families look like. And the reality is, in the next 50 years, immigrants and their descendants will make up 88% of the total U.S. population growth. So a country that's been defined by the black and white dynamic is now more Latino, more Asian, more mixed race than ever before. And the question of all of these idea of defining American, I've been traveling nonstop, as you can see, not only from the tweets, really traveling to places like Alabama. I remember going to Birmingham, Alabama in 2011, right when they passed an immigration law that out Arizona. I remember being at Walmart. I love Walmart. I don't know why, because it really tells you, every Walmart you go tells you who lives in that community. I always search for the Asian aisle or the Latino aisle. There were no Asian aisle in the Walmart in Birmingham. So I went there, and I remember meeting this woman in the soda water aisle, who was complaining about the two Mexicans on the other aisle and why they were speaking Spanish. She goes, "Why can't they just speak English?" And she said this verbally and loudly. I heard her, and I said, "Hi, my name is Jose." And I told her who I was, I told her what I am and what I do, and she goes, "Oh, but you speak English really well." "Really good." And I said, "No, really well. I do speak English well." And then it was really interesting. We got into this conversation, and she said, "I don't understand, if they've been here, why can't they just learn English?" And I'm like, "Well, ma'am, what makes you think that they don't want to learn English?" Right? And then she went on and on about how Birmingham is changing so fast. It's starting to look like California, she says. And then 15 minutes into the conversation, which is the 15 minutes that you don't hear about, she goes, "What if I can't learn Spanish?" Isn't that interesting? It started with, why can't they just speak English, to, well, wait, does that mean I have to learn Spanish now? What if I can't? My kids left me. I'm on Medicaid, she says. I've lost my job. I'm on Medicaid. I can't get another job. After that, 2 years later, I was on a flight from Tampa to LaGuardia, and I fly so much that I'm a Delta Diamond member, which is great. So I always get upgraded, and so I board the plane, and this guy pats me in the back, and he goes, "I've seen you on Fox News. I didn't know illegals fly first class." The moment he touched me, I was like, "Yo, I know karate. Do not touch me." And then I remember following him as he boarded the flight to his coach seat, and he was even more shouldered than I am, and he was stuck in the middle seat with these two women. And I'm looking at him going, "Oh man, he's really miserable down there." After the flight, when we actually arrived at LaGuardia, I waited for him. Name's Richard, 47 years old, lost his job. And I told him, "Hey, just so you know, I'm actually a job creator as a Defined American. I actually create jobs. Undocumented people cannot be employed, but we employ people." Right? He goes, "What?" I told him all these things. We ended up changing emails, addresses, and we still are connected today. I firmly believe that these conversations that we must insist on is the key, not only to solving our political problems that are beyond political parties, but the problem of, do we really even know each other? And I have to tell you, by the way, these uncomfortable conversations are not just with strangers, they're with your own family. Those are my grandmothers. 3 of them are my grandmothers. One is my aunt. They visited Ellis Island with me for the first time last week. One grandmother immigrated here in 1963, the other one 1969, the other one 1983, and the other one 1993. They're all naturalized U.S. citizens, but they have no idea what Ellis Island is. So I took them to Ellis Island, and I became kind of their audio guide. I told them about the Trail of Tears, right? Because we can't really talk about immigration without talking about what we've done to indigenous people in this country. And then I made them read the Middle Passage and what black people had to go through when they got here. The fact that black people were tied in chains, didn't speak languages next to each other, and had to sit on each other's excrement and pee just to get here. And one of my lolas, that means grandmother in Tagalog, said, "Oh, no, I can't read that. It's too ugly." "Oh, no, Lola, you have to read that. You have to read that. You have to know what that means." Now, I am sad to report that within my 34 Filipino-American relatives here in this country, out of 34 people, I'm the only one who's here illegally. Out of 34 of them, 18 of them are US citizens who could vote. Out of 18, only 3 voted this past election. No matter how many times on Facebook, no matter how many postings, they did not. Why? To them, America is something you eat, something you buy, something you wear. It's not something you participate in. I believe firmly in citizenship by participation. I believe that to be a citizen in this country means you have to show up. It means you have to participate. It means you have to engage with people even though your system of reality differs from them. You have to realize the fact that not everything revolves around you and the way you think about the world. Last week, you gotta love America, by the way. They won't give me a green card, but they give me honorary degrees. So last week, I got one at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, the irony. I flew my 4 grandmothers here so they could experience this with me. And as I'm sitting in Arthur Ashe Stadium about to give my commencement speech, I saw this ad citizen staring at me at Arthur Ashe Stadium like some sort of dare. Now, if I can't be a citizen because I'm not born here, if I can't be a citizen because I don't have the legal papers to be here, then I am a citizen because I continue to show up even when you don't want us here. One last thing. How many of you are American citizens? Can you raise your hand? I sincerely hope you do not take that privilege for granted. And I hope that you use it not only to validate your existence, but to realize that your equality is tied to another person's equality. Thank you so much for having me here.